We are now in the last 24 hours before Wuthering Waves finally receives its first brand new, non-beta tested, limited character, Jinhsi. And while for some reason we didn't end up getting a live stream, which was very sussy baka if you ask me, we did get a lot of tweets and a lot of just random info dumps about the new patch, including Jinhsi's full kit. Now, to be completely honest with you, the full English kit has not been posted yet, but our Chinese brethren have received it early. And thus, Wuthering Lab took that and got a translation done, so we are going to be able to look at it. In this video, I mostly want to talk about the teams that Jinhsi will be best on. If you want a full kit breakdown, there's probably a lot of videos on that by now, but I am just going to give you a brief overview of her kit if you're not super familiar, just so you can better understand why I'm picking out some of the characters that I am. Before I get into today's content though, I just wanted to mention to you, viewer, that I have created a new Discord server. So if you are a fan of Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero, or any other gacha game of any type, or just a cool guy, come hang out, come meme with me. I will talk about news in there, we'll talk about builds, we'll talk about polls. Come in and chat with us. I will leave the link down in the description if you are interested. So the gist of Jinhsi's kit is that she wants a shitload of on-field time, and let me show you why. She's going to start and she has to do 4 basic attacks fully. I'm not sure if there's any cancels you can do there, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but you are going to have to do 4 basic attacks before skilling with her once, which will send you into a new state. You'll transcend, where you'll get a new type of basic attack and a new type of skill. Here in this state, guess what you're going to have to do? 4 more basic attacks before you skill again. So just this loop of doing like basic attack, then skill, it requires a lot of on-field time. But here's the catch to her kit. She also wants teammates that are going to do very consistent damage. Not necessarily like the biggest damage, although that wouldn't hurt, but consistent damage is the most important thing. And that is because of this stuff called incandescence. When Jinhsi is on the team, all nearby characters on the team gain eras in unity. When characters with this deal damage with an attribute, Jinhsi gains 1 incandescence. The reason that you want to build all these incandescences is that when you have 40, you are going to get the max amount of damage possible on your final enhanced skill. There's like multiple versions of the enhanced skill, but the final one that you do after you do all those basic attacks, all the skills, if you have 40 stacks of this incandescence, you're gonna just nuke them. And that is the main idea of her kit. With that in mind, let's talk about the characters you can use to best utilize it. First off, I am gonna address the elephant in the room here, because if you're like me, you might have been shipping the Sanhua and Jinhsi pairing. You know, it makes sense in the lore, they're already besties. I wanted my 2 white-haired waifus on the same team, but I have some bad news. It's not going to work out, guys. This is not a good pairing, and I'll tell you why. Sanhua is definitely a good quick swap character, which might be deceiving, and you're like, oh, that might work for this. But the thing about Sanhua is that all of her damage is just front-loaded into this little burst window, where she's going to deal all her damage within maybe at the most like 6 seconds, right? And if you're really good, probably like 3 or 4 seconds. And let me show you why that's bad, is because you can only get 1 stack of incandescence from the same attribute every 3 seconds. So that means even though you're popping Sanhua's skill and her liberation and her outro or whatever, it's all only going to count as 1 stack of incandescence, which is not going to mean anything, and that's not going to help you at all. Sure, it's quick swap with some extra damage, but it's not going to help you at all. Plus, you know, of course, Sanhua has the basic attack deepen, and that is not great for Jinhsi. Jinhsi does the 4 basic attacks, and then it gets converted to a heavy attack, so it's really not going to count for much. Unfortunately, this pairing is just not going to work out. If you want to play it, you know, I don't blame you. I think it'll look good, you know, graphically, but damage-wise, it is not going to be too hot. So yeah, Sanhua is kind of the template for the worst kind of teammate that we can find for Jinhsi, because she's that front-loaded burst character. So we kind of want the opposite. We want the elongated damage type of characters, which is going to translate well into the coordinated attack carriers, which if you're not sure what that means, if you're a Genshin player, it's kind of like Xingqiu or Yinlin, where you cast your ults and then while they're off field, they're going to deal like pew 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 while you're basic attacking type of thing. We have a few of those characters in Wuthering Waves right now, and I think this is going to be the best option for most people, is Mr. Yuan Wu up here. The reason that I'm saying Yuan Wu is probably the best option for most players is that he's completely free, right? If you can beat those first couple of floors of TOA, you already have him on your account and he's ready to go. So this is going to be a great option. I would also argue that he might be the easiest option to play because all you have to do when you have Yuan Wu to benefit Jinhsi is just press his E about every 12 seconds, which lines up pretty much with Jinhsi's rotation anyways. It's a little longer than 12 seconds, but that's okay. It's still going to be a consistent way to be doing off-field damage because as you can see, when you press his skill afterwards, every 1.2 seconds, you're going to be doing electro damage. It's not a lot of electro damage, but you know what? It doesn't matter how much damage you deal, as long as you're doing any damage with an attribute, she's going to gain a stack. So Yuan Wu is going to be super consistent for that, and also super quick to just swap to, swap back, and everyone has him. So great option for Jinhsi if you have him. Now we're talking about coordinated attacks. Your mind may have wandered off to one of the best coordinated attack characters, which is Mortefi, of course, and you're right, he is going to be an awesome pairing with Jinhsi. Contingent upon this, if you are lucky enough to have him at S4 to extend that off-field damage by 7 seconds, then I mean you are totally set. If you don't have this, I think that Yuan Wu is going to be better because he's going to be more consistent with it, even though ultimately he's not going to deal as much damage himself. Now, if you have Mortefi at sequence 6 here, where your liberation is going to also increase attack by 20%, Mortefi is arguably the best once you get him at S6. Not a lot of people are going to have this unless you went totally crazy on Jian Spanner, but Mortefi is probably the best option, especially if you don't have this next character. The only 5-star coordinated attacker that we currently have in the game is, of course, this bad lady right here. If you were lucky enough to pull her, Yinlin. And if you're not familiar with her kit, I can show you real quick. She is going to leave this thing on enemies called Punishment Mark, and it's an AoE ability, so it can be put on multiple enemies, which is good for TOA, of course. And even when she's off field, any enemy that has Punishment Mark is going to take coordinated attack damage. So again, perfect for Jinhsi to be building up those sweet incandescent stacks, right? Also, there's just the fact that Yinlin is a 5-star and her damage is going to be so much better, and she has her big burst with her ult. So Yinlin is probably going to be the most ideal teammate for Jinhsi right now, if you're willing to let her part ways with your Calcharo. That could be interesting when we have to have specific teams for each tower, but if you're willing to let them part ways, she is going to be great. And when it comes to that 3rd slot, we are going to be dealing with the same 2 that we had in 1.0. No new support so far, so we're going to have to wait a couple of months for that. So we're picking between Vina and Baiji, right? So the thing about Vina, though, is that she is a Spectro character, and if we go back to Jinhsi's incandescence requirements here, damage of the same attribute can provide up to 1 incandescence every 3 seconds. So that means even though Vina might seem perfect because her liberation is going to deal off-field damage, that is going to be Spectro damage, which matches Jinhsi's and probably Jinhsi's echoes. So it's not really going to help you a whole lot there. Now, she's still Vina, and she's still going to give you that attack buff and also just amazing healing. But, you know, if you have to pick between using Vina on this team or the other side of the tower, maybe throw Vina on that one and throw Baiji on this one, because Baiji also has some coordinated attack damage. It's harder to get off, and she's not going to give you as big of an attack buff. But, you know, pick your poison here. I think that in my run-throughs, I am going to pick Baiji as my support for this side of the tower. All of those characters that I just listed off are going to be her meta teammates. They're going to be the ones that probably 95% of people run when they're pushing TOA, but I am going to show you a couple memeier options. If you like any of these characters and you've been itching to use them, these aren't bad options for either. And the first one is Tao Chi, which I think might be fun to try. And if I ever get some spare materials built up, I might try this out just so I can say I use Tao Chi, you know. And basically the main reason for that is that she has the Resonant Skill Deepen, which is amazing for Jinhsi, because a lot of Jinhsi's damage comes from the resonant skill. You can see this graph that Wuthering Lab made. 75% of her damage is resonant skill damage. So, I mean, buffing that by 38% is awesome. I did mention earlier that Jinhsi does not have great synergy with Spectro characters, but the Spectro Rover might not be bad as well, especially since literally everyone has her, right? And that's because Jinhsi is going to allow her teammates to do their outro skills a lot more than usual. And Spectro Rover's outro skill is pretty good, I think. It'll kind of freeze time around the enemy, which is good for Jinhsi because she has to do so many basic attacks. It's nice for Jinhsi because she is allowed to dodge in between those basic attacks and it won't break combo. But this will still be nice, especially if you're kind of like still learning the character and Rover is one of your only options. Even if you leveled up Havoc Rover, maybe just switch her to Spectro and try this out. Could be a fun team as well. All those characters are going to be my top meta picks that I think will be the best of the best, and of course those slightly below best ones that I mentioned too. But this is Wuthering Waves, guys. It's a skill-based game. If you're the best alto in the world, play with alto because you're going to play him so optimally that he's just going to pop off completely and they're going to work together perfectly. Play what you want. Don't be a meta slave unless you're like me, and then you can play some of these guys that I mentioned. But either way, I hope you're having a blast with Jinhsi if you have her already. If you don't have her, good luck with your pulls. Oh my god, isn't she so beautiful? I'm so jealous if you have her already. Enjoy our white-haired girlfriend. I will enjoy her with you guys. Let me know what you thought of the video. If you have any better suggestions for teammates, please let me know. I would love to be wrong, so point it out down there. Oh my god, this is distracting me. I can't even watch this right now. So I'm gonna get off. Like and subscribe to the video if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.